So in this video, what I want to do is talk about something that's really close to my heart, which is big vistas, and how you can add drama and scale and really show off those amazing landscapes. Morning everybody, fantastic to see you all again. So as you can see, I'm back in my studio. I've done most of the sort of renovations now. The most important thing is I've got a log burner in here now, so it's actually warm and I can shoot in the winter in here. So that's good news, and I've changed things around so that I can have different angles. And next week I'm doing a Q&A and I'll have a little bit more done in the studio. So I'll show you around a little bit and give you a bit of a tour and tell you a little bit more about why I've changed things around. On to vistas and scale. So I've got the images on my iPad here. I thought it'd be sort of a little bit different just to sit here and just sort of go through the images on my iPad. So last week I was skiing and there was a particular shot that I took with my iPhone. I just took my iPhone out when I was on the ski slopes and took some photos. But there was a particular photo that I took of a skier that made the image, and it's this one here. And without the skier, I don't think you'd have an idea. It wouldn't have as much drama, the image. You wouldn't have an idea of the scale of the landscape that I was skiing in, which was the Mont Blanc area near Chamonix in France. And it is a stunning location. We got some real drama in the clouds, and these blue tones were beautiful. But luckily, this skier just came down this ridge, and it made all the difference to the shot. And then I was thinking, you know, is there any other ways that you can depict scale in photos? And I went back through my photos and realized that there's quite a lot of them that have done a similar thing, some of them with people, some of them without. So I thought I'd go through and give you some tips about how you maybe could try and get the drama of a big vista across in an image. Before I say that, I should say that I really enjoyed using my phone to get photos on the skiing trip. I shot, I think, one shot with my big camera, a long lens shot, but the rest of it, I just used my phone. And it really was a great way of capturing images. Because I just restricted myself to that, it just meant I always had it in my pocket. I could just stop, I was skiing, and just take photos. And I got some really good shots. Okay, so let's start with people in images. And let's start with a few images that I've taken in the Faroe Islands, actually, which is definitely all about drama and scale. And where people add to the image, but don't really show the scale of the photo. So there's this one here, which is this amazing rock you'd have seen a million times now from the Faroe Islands, and another one here of the same rock from a different perspective of James. And I don't think that these quite show the scale of this location. But if you see just a wider shot here of me, this was taken a couple of years ago actually, on the end of this rock, you can see that by moving back and having a wider angle lens on and having this person really tiny, then I've started to give an idea of the scale, and you can appreciate how big these rock formations are. You know, again, I've done a very similar thing with this shot. So this is one that's zoomed in of Steve here, we were on a workshop and he was walking down this ridge. And you can see that it's a nice image of Steve, but it really doesn't give us an idea of scale. But if I come back and use a wider angle, you can see Steve right on the ridge line here. And that is really showing off the scale of the location. And what's quite interesting in this is that I've used the foreground to sort of accentuate that a bit as well, so that you lead through this foreground and then see this, you know, ridge right in the distance, and then Steve just walking down it. I did a similar thing with these three people. I just waited till they were spaced out a little bit. And again, by just being a bit further away, I think this was a longer lens, but I was quite a long way away, and having these people really tiny, then again, you can depict scale in the landscape. But is there any other ways? So I was thinking, are there any other ways that you can depict scale? So people are really good because everyone knows how tall a person is, and so you can sort of relate to it, and your brain immediately starts to think about the scale and the size of the mountains in the background. But I think there are, and I think there's different things you can use, different objects, or maybe even animals. So I want to show you a few examples of this. So the first one here is in Yosemite. This is something that doesn't work. So I've got El Capitan here, which is one of the biggest monoliths in the world. You know, it's absolutely massive, and you know, by actually just having the trees in the foreground, then I'm not depicting that scale at all. I'm creating a very different type of image. But when I was higher up and shooting down, looking at El Capitan's just on the right here, you can see that I've started to get a better idea of scale with these images here. One was pointing in towards sunset, the other was, I think, midday. And then these monoliths here, you can see Half Dome in the background as well. I've got some trees on top of them, and these trees are massive pine trees and sequoias. And because you know how big one of those trees is, and you can just see it as this tiny tree on top of the actual monolith, then again it's starting to depict scale. And it doesn't have to be super obvious. Your brain's quite clever, it can see it, pick it up, and then you can depict that scale. But if I talk about these images here from the Lake District, in fact I talk about one of them in this video here, and how I saw the reflection of these trees in the lake, then you get an idea of scale, because you can see the trees, you can see the either silhouette or the reflected silhouette in the lake, and that gives you an idea of scale. It also helps to see how far away the lake is from the beginning of this stream here all the way down to the stream there. So by putting things in the frame at different distances that are objects that you're familiar with, you can start to create depth to the image as well as scale. You know, the same view here, but on a different day with a beautiful sunset. And again, I can see those trees, and those trees are adding scale. Now, I have to say, in this one, I didn't think about that, but afterwards, I think when I look at it, those trees do add something to the image. If you take them away, I think it would be difficult to really have an appreciation of how big that lake is and the size of that lake. So the other thing is buildings and roads. I don't tend to include a lot of buildings and roads in my images, but there are some images that I've taken that I really love that do have buildings and roads in them. This is a great example here from the Isle of Skye and the beach and Elgol. Again, the video about taking this shot is here if you want to go and have a look at it. And this house here on the bottom left really adds scale to this image and really adds to the drama of the image as well. Okay, we've got that dramatic light, which really is beautiful, but I think it's that house that makes this image. Again, this was in Angel's Landing in Zion National Park. If you've ever been to Zion, then you might have seen Angel's Landing. It's the scariest hike ever, and I took my two sons on it, and God knows why, because it was so scary. But looking down I wanted to sort of convey that sort of majestic nature of how high you were, and that, you know, the ability to look down. And when I looked down, I saw a bus going on the ring road here in Zion, and you can see the bus down there. It's just this tiny dot on the ring road. And again, I think without that, I don't think you'd have got quite the drama in this image that it's portrayed. Using roads as something that I do quite a lot with my drone, or maybe rivers. Roads are good because, again, you know how wide a road is. And in this image here on the way to Torridon, we've got this amazing sweeping road here. And not only is it a good S-curve, but it's also giving scale to the image and depth and drama. And then also the image that I took, I showed in, was it last week's video or the week before? The week before, 2 weeks ago, this image here from Iceland, which is one of my favourite images of the year so far. It was taken with the drone. It's a 6-shot pano. But again, the road and that lighthouse there are what add. So there's buildings and the road are what add to this shot. They don't take away from the landscape nature of it, but they add to it just to give it a little bit of scale. So it doesn't have to be super obvious, it can be quite subtle, but adding things like that into your shot can really help to add scale and drama. Or you could just add animals like this. I've got a sheep here, there's a person, there's a lighthouse. I've got all three really, animal, person and building. And again, that gives scale and depth to the image. Now, I understand that you might not want to include buildings or people or anything like that. But there's other ways that you can emphasize drama and a sort of scale to an image. You're not going to know how big the mountains are, but it can certainly give an idea of the vastness of the landscape. And that is just to include more sky into your image. And I often do that if the sky is quite dramatic. So this is an image again from the Faroe Islands. We've got this really dramatic sky. There was wind and these rain showers were coming through, and I wanted to sort of depict that. Now, I could have gone really close on the mountains, but I feel that this gives more drama to the image by just having the mountains right at the bottom. It's almost like these big mountains just overcome by the dramatic nature of the sky. Again, a similar one here, I have got a person in it, but the sky coming down and the rain is what shows this off. Again, another one, I was on a boat here, going to Suðuroy, I think, in the Faroe Islands, and I wanted to show the sky, and then the capital of the Faroe Islands there in the bottom. So I hope that's helped. Whilst we're speaking about vistas, I've been working on something for the last probably 7 or 8 months now, and probably 2 years I've been thinking about it, and that's a book. So I wanted to do a book that was just a little bit different. I really enjoy coffee table books and really high quality landscape photography books, and also have quite a lot of portrait photography books as well. But I didn't want it just to be about my images. My channel is about inspirational tuition, I suppose. I set up my channel thinking that I've got a reasonable amount of knowledge over the last sort of 35 years, and I wanted to share that with everybody. So I want my book to be about that as well. So although it's a coffee table book, it's a coffee table book that you can get something from. There's some tips in there. I talk about my images and how I created my images, a bit about composition, a bit about settings, and a little bit about feelings and emotion and what I went through. It's not a huge amount of text, there's only little bits of text, but I feel that when you look at it and you look at the images and there's a paragraph of text about that images, that you'll get something out of it that's not just, you know, sharing my images, but how I took that photo as well. So it's going on pre-order now. There's a link in the description below. I'll also put a link here, and I'm going to have 1,000 copies of it. There's going to be 100 exclusive edition, which is going to be the book, a case and a A4 print. The book will be signed and the print will be signed. There's going to be 100 signature edition, which is the case and a signed book, and then the other 800 are going to be just the book. Now, if you do a pre-order of those 800 of just the book, then I'll also sign those as well. So the pre-orders are below, and thanks so much if you do pre-order one of my books. I'll be shipping them probably around May time, I should think. I've just got to do some final tweaks to it. I've had a proof, but I just want to tweak a few things. The paper is something that I spent a long time choosing. It's beautiful sort of art paper that just shows off the images really, really well. So that's it. Thanks ever so much for watching. Until next Sunday, when I'm going to do a Q&A from the questions that I got asked on Instagram. I posted them recently because I'm actually going to Norway now, so I've got to record that video as well now before I go. But until that video, thanks ever so much for watching. Bye.
It's a lonely road to travel on. It's a heavy loss to be alone. Now I find